We're aiming for, like, real honesty. You're definitely in the right place today.
Right.
We are going to tear apart something that gets in almost everyone's way. Sweet lies we tell. Ourselves, others, the stuff holding back real connection.
Yeah, the sources we dug into. Genuinely confronting stuff. We're looking at truth on, let's say, 2 levels. First, those subtle social mistakes. Things we do thinking, this is helpful, but actually they create distance. And second, a really radical philosophy piece calls itself Truth Without Apology. It basically challenges, well, everything. Fear, love, what it even means to live.
Okay, so our goal here, for you listening, is unfiltered clarity. We want to unpack these truths, starting small, with everyday conversations, things you might have done this morning even, and then zoom out to the big life questions. Purpose, meaning. So, yeah, get ready. This might sting a little. Let's start with those social missteps. Because, wow, the sources were clear. We often mess up connections without even realizing it. We think, my intention is good, so the impact must be good. But ouch, the truth is, intention and impact, often totally different pages. And there are like 6 key ways this happens.
Exactly. These are like tiny little aggressions against just being present with someone. Let's start with one I see, well, everywhere. Over-explaining yourself all the time. You think you're just being clear, right? Covering all your bases so there's no misunderstanding.
Totally. I'm just trying to show I'm on top of things. Responsible.
But what the research suggests is it doesn't sound like responsibility. It sounds more like insecurity. One article actually called it a stress response. Like you're constantly trying to explain yourself out of trouble that hasn't even happened. And ironically, that whole effort to manage how you look, it makes people trust your actual, stability less.
Oh, man, that clicks. It turns every chat into defending yourself. Okay, next one. This is a big temptation, especially for learners like us, turning every conversation into a teachable moment.
The advice monster. Someone's just venting, bad meeting, feeling down, and boom, we jump in with, you should read this book, or have you seen that TED Talk, or sounds like you're experiencing.
And the sources basically say, you're missing the whole point of why they're talking.
Exactly. They need listening, connection, not homework. It reminds me of that Buddhist idea, upaya, skillful means. It's about knowing how and when to apply wisdom. Sometimes the most skillful thing is just silence, empathy, holding space.
Okay, number 3 seems so harmless. Giving too many compliments too quickly. Why is being nice a mistake?
Because it can feel fake, like a performance. If you just shower someone with praise right off the bat, it feels off. Disingenuous. Or worse, like you're trying to get something, buttering them up. It replaces real connection with a social routine, just being present, actually paying attention to them. That's way more valuable than cheap compliments.
Okay, now we're getting into trickier territory. Number 4, playing the humble martyr. That whole vibe of, oh, don't worry about me, I'm used to picking up the slack anyway. Ugh.
It's exhausting, isn't it? For everyone involved. They clearly want you to notice their sacrifice. But the way they do it just makes everyone feel kind of awkward and guilty. True generosity, the sources point out, doesn't keep score. You just give it. You don't need a constant thank you tour for it.
Okay, got a bit. I catch myself doing number 5 sometimes. Interrupting with your version of the story. Someone shares something, maybe something tough, and your first thought is, oh, I get that. And then you launch into, that's just like this time
And bam, you've just stolen their spotlight. Even if you mean to connect, like I relate, the impact is you've shifted the focus entirely onto you. Makes the other person feel kind of unseen, right? Like their experience was just a setup for your anecdote. Real empathy means making space for their thing, even if you do relate.
And the last one, number 6, feels like just being nice, being too agreeable, just constantly nodding, sure, yeah, okay, never pushing back.
It's the fast track to becoming, bland, forgettable. Relationships, especially the ones that matter, they actually need a little friction, some honesty. That's how respect grows. If you just agree with everything, people kind of stop valuing your opinion. They figure you don't really have one.
So instead of that fake yes, just maybe, I see it a bit differently. Something simple like that.
Exactly. Honest, but not aggressive. It opens up space for real dialogue.
Okay, so those are the subtle social lies, the ways we push people away. But what about the really big lies, the ones we tell ourselves? That's where we shift gears, right? Into this really radical critique from Acharya Prashant. This sounds intense.
It is. Definitely a shift. We're moving from social skills to the very definition of how we live. And the first huge point is this difference between mere survival and real life.
Okay, hang on. Most of us think we are living life, right? Doing the work, paying bills.
But the argument here is maybe we're just surviving. The source defines mere survival as spouting, like 80 or 90% of your energy, mental, physical, just on keeping the body going. Food, shelter, pleasure. Feeding the physical and the mental stomach. There's this great analogy. It's like buying an amazing car, but then spending all your time just putting gas in it and getting it serviced. You never actually drive anywhere meaningful.
Whoa. Okay, so that's just survival. What's real life then?
Real life, according to this framework, happens when the body, the physical stuff, becomes the tool, not the main goal. It's a life aimed squarely at one thing.
Freedom.
Freedom. Okay. That makes us reevaluate things we usually see as good or bad, like fear. We're taught fear is weakness, something to crush. Right. But this philosophy flips that completely. It says fear isn't weakness, it's a message, a positive signal. It shines a spotlight right on where your internal chains are, your dependencies, your lies to yourself.
Okay, unpack that. How is fear positive? Give me an example.
Okay, say you feel that awful, gut-wrenching fear of your boss. That fear isn't just some negative emotion to get rid of, it's a vital alert, a notification flashing. Warning, you are deeply dependent on this person for your security, your income, maybe your self-worth. If you didn't feel the fear, you'd stay blind to how trapped you are internally. The fear points right at the bars of the cage you built.
Okay, I can kind of track with that. Fear as an indicator. But here's where it gets really weird for me, honestly. The source says that confidence is the shadow of fear, or even that confidence is fear. How are we supposed to function, like in work, socially, without confidence?
We need to be careful with words here. The argument is we're mixing up genuine competence, knowing your stuff, being able to do things, with the performance of confidence. Competence is real, you build it. Confidence, in this view, it's a naqab, a mask, a fake front. It's something you only feel you need when there's some deep inner terror you're trying to paper over.
If I feel like I need to act confident, I'm basically broadcasting how scared I really am.
That's the idea. When you're genuinely skilled, present, relaxed, you don't feel confident. You just feel at ease. Natural. Sahaj is the Hindi word used. Comfortable. You're just being, trying to be confident. That's the ego scrambling to hide the fear. So the real goal isn't confidence. It's fearlessness.
Wow. That reframes pretty much every meeting I've ever been in. And you mentioned fear often doesn't show up looking like fear, right? It uses disguises.
Oh, absolutely. It puts on very respectable costumes, like intense ambition. Often it's just a deep fear of being irrelevant or rejected socially, or that desperate need for love for a partner, often just covering up a crippling fear of being alone. We chase these external things, success, relationships, to avoid hearing that internal fear message.
And avoiding those messages leads us right into relationship trouble. You pointed out that phrase we all use, I love you as you are, but the source calls this a sweet lie, even calls it hatred. That sounds incredibly harsh. Why?
It sounds harsh, yeah. But the reasoning is, if you genuinely loved someone and you saw they were stuck, suffering, maybe incomplete, like half a person, would you just accept that? Or would you want better for them? Motivate them towards becoming whole, towards growth? To just accept their suffering or their limitation without encouraging them to rise above it, that's seen as a kind of conspiracy, keeping them stuck in the mud, as the source puts it.
So real love means pushing for improvement, not just acceptance.
It demands betterment, yeah. There's this core idea. If you are half, incomplete, running from fear, and you meet another half, getting together doesn't make you one whole person. The math is actually worse. It's like half times half equals a quarter. The dynamic pulls both down, leads to more shared misery. Real love helps both people move towards freedom, towards wholeness.
That idea of wholeness seems totally at odds with another modern obsession, work-life balance. The sources really don't like that term.
Hates it, absolutely tears it down. The critique is brutal. You only need balance if the two things you're balancing, work and life, are fundamentally opposed. Like you hate your job so much you need protected lifetime just to recover from it.
So needing balance is basically admitting your life setup is flawed.
That's exactly it. The source calls work-life balance the mantra of the mediocre. Ouch, because it forces you into this fragmented existence, giving, 10% here, 30% there, 40% somewhere else. Nothing gets your full, undivided attention. Everything is compromised.
What's the alternative then? If not balance, just all work?
Not exactly all work, but total devotion to something that feels true, absolute. When you find that work and life aren't separate things to balance, they overlap completely. Relaxation, energy. It doesn't come from escaping work on the weekend. You can find it right in the middle of the work itself, because the work aligns with your deepest purpose.
Looking at society, this drive for compromise, for basic security, It seems like it affects whole systems,
Yeah.
right? Is the argument that our whole definition of success is just choosing mediocrity together.
That's pretty much the diagnosis, yeah. This preference for safety over real freedom, it shows up in big ways, like the critique of what the source calls the coaching mafia.
The what now?
The coaching mafia. It's about this huge industry, especially in some places, that funnels all this amazing youth energy into one single goal: passing exams for secure government jobs. The argument is this just kills innovation, risk-taking, entrepreneurship. It breeds a culture of mediocrity where everyone just settles for safe and compromised instead of aiming for something truly meaningful or free.
And if we're not aiming for freedom, maybe we look for easy ways out, which connects to that critique of jugad.
Right, jugad, the Indian term for those clever, quick-fix solutions. Hacks. And while it can seem resourceful, the source critiques it as a symptom of a deeper problem: an inability to build solid, long-term, rational systems. It shows a reliance on shortcuts, on improvisation, maybe even superstition, instead of facing things honestly and building properly. That lack of internal honesty just scales up. Which brings us back to how we try to fix ourselves internally. When we feel off, we reach for self-help. But the source draws a very sharp line here.
Yeah, that line was cutting. Self-help is the ego-playing doctor.
It is. Self-help often gives you these quick fixes, right? 3 easy steps, daily affirmations. They might make you feel better for a bit, but they let the ego, the root of the problem, according to this view, stay completely untouched. It's just rearranging deck chairs. Instead of self-help, the call is for self-knowledge, which means, honestly, sometimes painfully, just looking at your own life, your dependencies, your biases. The fundamental issue, this philosophy argues, isn't that you need tips, it's that you don't truly know yourself.
Okay, so pulling all this together for you, the listener, we've gone from tiny chat mistakes to these huge life traps, but the core message seems to be pretty consistent. Freedom demands internal honesty. And that honesty, it's often not comfortable. It's that truth without apology.
And we really need to get this. The worst wounds aren't from outside circumstances, they're self-inflicted. Your own mistaken beliefs, your ego, your habits you refuse to examine, those are the vices. And they are what keep the cage locked from the inside.
It circles right back to that incredibly powerful metaphor from the source material. The cage was never outside. We're our own jailers. We spend so much energy blaming the world, trying to change external things, when the lock is internal.
Now, if you're really hearing this, maybe your mind is racing, thinking about huge changes, new career, fixing relationships, mapping out a whole 5-year plan for transformation.
But wait, the sources warn against that too, right? Focusing too far ahead. Isn't that often just another avoidance tactic, driven by the same insecurity we're trying to escape? It's a way to avoid the immediate need for honesty, like right now.
Precisely. So here's the final question we want to leave you with, something to chew on. If the deepest truth is that freedom is actually possible right now, how does all that focus on tomorrow, on the 5-year plan, on long-term security? How does that stop you from seeing that just the next step is enough? What uncomfortable truth about your life right here, right now, are you avoiding by keeping your eyes fixed way out on the horizon?